Good morning, Internet, and welcome back to the reading of the Master List of Logical Fallacies with Alan Bueller and commentary with Bryce Barnett. Sometimes, it's every time. Today we are on number 72. I don't know how to pronounce this one, but before we dive in, Alan, how are you doing today?
Oh, I'm doing good, my dude. Just in the process of making a business work in times where it's next level challenge to make a business work. So in that world, and genuinely appreciative and grateful for the whole thing.
Yeah, sure. Very cool. All right. So yeah, let's dive in. Number 72. I'm going to try to pronounce it. Bala Fides. Fides? No, wrong. Probably. Alan's turn.
It's either Malafidez or Malafides. Either way, arguing in bad faith, also sophism. Using an argument that the arguer himself or herself knows is not valid. Example, an unbeliever attacking believers by throwing verses from their own holy scriptures at them, or a lawyer arguing for the innocence of someone whom he or she knows full well to be guilty. Okay. This latter is a common practice in American jurisprudence and sometimes portrayed as the worst face of sophism. Special thanks to Bradley Steffens for pointing out this fallacy. Included under this fallacy is the fallacy of motivational truth, also demagogy or campaign promises, deliberately lying to the people to gain their support or motivate them towards some action the rhetor perceives to be desirable, using evil discursive means toward a good material end. A particularly bizarre and corrupt form of this latter fallacy is self-deception, also whistling by the graveyard. There's a lot of ones in this one, in which one deliberately and knowingly deludes oneself in order to achieve a goal, or perhaps simply to suppress anxiety and maintains one's energy level, enthusiasm, morale, peace of mind, or sanity in moments of adversity. I'm kind of confused by this one.
Well, the thing to understand is that I'm also very confused.
Yeah, so it sounds. Let me try to read this one again. An unbeliever attacking believers by throwing verses from scripture at them.
So I'm genuinely. I don't understand why that's not valid.
Yeah. And
Because,
a lawyer
in my
arguing for
opinion,
the
that's just
innocent.
like holding them accountable to what they.
Yeah, there's also one is like a lawyer arguing for innocence of someone who he or she knows is guilty. So basically, this is like how I'm kind of reading this one is it's like lying. It's just I
Right, so
think
it's arguing in bad faith. So
it's basically this sounds like it's more internal. It's like it's the phenomenon of someone saying something they know they're aware is not true. So they're basically presenting in a way that is opposite of how they actually feel or what they actually know is what it sounds like. Because
okay.
in the second one, motivational truth, where it talks or demagoguery or campaign promises, deliberately lying to people to gain their support and motivate them towards some action the rhetoric perceives to be desirable. That implies that they're willing to say something that's in contrast to what they believe is true, but they will do it in order to get someone to favor them. So yeah, it's
Oh, I get it. I get. Okay, it's
yeah,
okay. Now it clicked for me. Uh,
yeah,
for the unbeliever attacking believers by throwing verses from their own holy scriptures, it's arguing bad faith because the atheist does not believe the verses. So
yes,
they don't think that like this is something to be believed. Um So,
Yeah, it'd be like an unbeliever in Christianity. And I don't know if it's all in all religions, but in Christianity, there's a term called rebuking, and rebuking just essentially means to call out someone's faithlessness. And so I think it'd be like if an unbeliever tried to rebuke a believer with Bible verses, even though they don't believe in the Bible verses themselves. I feel like that's like what this is implying. It's like you're not believing in God enough, even though you don't believe in God enough, and it's like, yeah,
I,
is that
I,
is that
I wish it was slightly more specific on like what Bible verses, but it doesn't even say Christianity. It says,
yeah,
which even that's really vague. We can assume that means like atheist versus theist.
yeah.
Um, okay, so
I think the one in this that I find really interesting is self-deception, and I have a pretty good like personal story on this one.
okay,
Uh,
I'm just trying to grasp the first one,
yeah,
and then okay, so I think I kind of get it. I still don't fully get why it's like fallacious because even if what you're saying is correct, but you don't believe the thing, doesn't make what you're saying not uh, correct.
yeah, more
So
like makes it immoral, but maybe not necessarily fallacious.
sure, yeah. So it's that's the
Yeah, I don't even know how you could, but you couldn't even in any situation you can't prove either what someone's actual beliefs are unless you like ask
right.
them.
Yeah, they would have to essentially say so. But I mean, at least with the example of an atheist versus a theist, typically atheists will let you know that they are atheists.
Yeah,
Um, and also vice versa. Uh, let's see. So I think I'm gonna have to come back to that one. I get what it's saying, but I don't understand why it's necessarily fallacious. So if you want to move on to self-deception, we can, or we can just go in order because there's the motivational truth. Oh yes, demagogy. Oh, did I say that
yeah,
right?
yep, demagogy, yep.
Okay. So deliberately lying to the people to gain their support. So that one makes more sense because you're saying something that like you don't actually believe. Um,
Or
I
you're
don't
saying
know. Yeah,
you're saying a lie. Or rather, you are lying uh, in order to motivate people to to take a desired action. Um,
I have an example of that one. There is an alleged interview with Donald Trump from like the 90s, I think. Somebody asking if he would ever run for president. And he said, I don't think so, but if I did, I would run Republican because something, they would believe anything and I can lie to them all day and I can get away with it. Um, and don't I don't know how truthful that was a real interview. There's no video of it. It's only like published the words that I've been able to find of it. So I don't know how
mhm.
true that is. But during the 2016 election, part of me, because I knew that that was a thing that was floating out there, I thought that the whole campaign was just a lie, and Trump was actually liberal. I don't think that now. But I thought that that's what he was doing. He was just straight up lying to cater to the right just to get in and then be like, just kidding, y'all stupid, I'm leftist. That did not happen. Um, but anyways, if that did happen, which I don't think it did, that would be motivational truth.
It's so interesting. Yeah. Yeah,
And then, okay, self deception.
Yeah, so a particularly bizarre, corrupt form of this latter fallacy, self-deception, in which one deliberately, knowingly deludes oneself in order to achieve a goal, or perhaps simply to suppress anxiety and maintain one's energy level, enthusiasm, morale, peace of mind, or sanity in moments of adversity. Uh, yeah, there's two that come to mind right now. Like an immediate one is, I think it's supernatural for people to, when things get really hard, to try to lie to themselves, to or to deceive themselves, deceive their own perception of the situation, to avoid the adversity, especially if the adversity is intense. Like, um, oh man, the amount of times that I have lied to myself that my finances are in good shape, or that I can afford this thing, no problem, it's going to be okay, when the truth of the financial situation was that it was in really, really bad shape. But I would lie to myself that it wasn't, so that I wouldn't have to deal with the fact that it wasn't. That happens, that used to happen, and I still work with it all the time. Like, oh, I can afford this thing because it's going to be fine. Like, I can afford a $10 drink, or a whatever. I can afford to eat out right now without ever actually assessing if I can or can't, because it's easier to just lie to myself and say that I can. Um, but a one for self deception, outside of the moments of adversity, there was I might have talked about this at some point on this, but I'll talk about it again in this particular situation. There was a time where, in my relationship with Amanda, there was a greater level of depth to the vulnerability and authenticity that um, that our relationship was ready to cultivate. But uh, for me, the experience of opening up and doing the work to actually build that vulnerability and authenticity with her was absolutely terrifying. And I just, like, there was a part of me that wanted to avoid doing the work altogether. So, however, even though I wanted to avoid doing the work, I, like everybody else, still have human needs around, one of which is connection. And so, one of the ways that we all connect with each other is by talking about the things that are on our hearts or on our minds. And I didn't want to do the work to have the conversations with Amanda to build that level of trust and intimacy and authenticity and all that. And so I would, but I still wanted a woman to listen to me. So I would go on these lunch outings with all these different women, and I was having deep emotional conversations with these other women, getting my emotional needs met. And I what ended up happening as a result of that is I started to develop these deeper emotional bonds with women outside of my relationship. And I was, because of how bad that looked, or how the essentially the amount of effort it would take to undo that situation and to own that situation, take responsibility for that situation, kept climbing higher. I increasingly was in self-deception around what I was actually doing, which was essentially going on dates with other women while I was in a fully committed relationship that was monogamous. And so eventually this became a thing that was obvious enough that I had built relationships up with a couple of women outside of my relationship, that it was clearly becoming, it was beginning to break down the trust, authenticity, and vulnerability within my primary relationship with Amanda. And it all kind of came to a head when I was like, nothing's going on, 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 when she would ask, like, what's going on. But eventually it got to the point where she was like, there is something going on, what is happening here? And in a very like intense moment between the two of us, I had to admit to myself and to Amanda that what I was doing was getting my emotional needs met by other women outside of the relationship rather than working on it within my relationship. But up until that point that I had to admit it to both her and to myself, the whole time I was lying to myself because I wanted to achieve the goal of experiencing connection. I wanted to achieve the goal of experiencing intimacy, but I was unwilling to do what was necessary to be done to make that happen in my intimate relationship where it should have been done, and instead was doing it elsewhere and then lying to myself that that's what I was doing in the first place. And it was a huge breakdown in our relationship that took a lot of time and energy and honesty and consistency to repair from, of which we've cultivated really strong repair in our relationship now. But yeah, when the consequences of our actions are huge and the adversity we're facing is massive, the temptation to do whatever it takes to not face that, including lie to ourselves, is massive. And I can attest to that because I've definitely lied to myself and by extension lied to others so I could get what I wanted on a deeper level. And so yeah, that's my story on that one.
Yeah. Do you mind if I chime in with my perspective on
Sure.
uh, essentially not necessarily the whole situation, but just like kind of the generalization of that phenomenon happening.
Sure.
Because like for me, I think it's really fascinating to study human evolution and our behaviors and like what where we fit in with the rest of the planet with the animals and humans are not monogamous creatures. It's something that's definitely celebrated in our culture today, at least in this part of the world. So I find it fascinating that
Did you
we
say wait, you said the claim humans are not monogamous creatures?
yeah we're not. It's kind of a tradition, but like we're not. We don't like
What?
actually pair like for life. We like to do that, but like as far as what is human intentions, uh, we we don't naturally strive for that. There's a lot of jealousy that we have, um, and that causes us to again, at least in this culture, especially in America, we definitely like to strive towards monogamous relationships. But humans are far from monogamous. And I don't know. I think it's interesting that we still do that. At least for me, um, there is there's a perceived barrier in society that there are friendships and then there are like romantic relationships, and um, I think for me, I've broken that barrier. I don't see like where the clear line is drawn. Um, I can kind of make one up because I'm in a monogamous relationship right now, at least for the most part, at least with other women. I can date penis puberty. But anyways, and Sarah's listening to this right now. But I oh gosh, where was I going with this? Um, Train of thought. Uh, okay. Oh yeah, the difference between what's what. Um, we know at least from the Tony Robbins talk where he talks about rapport. It's kind of this sliding scale of how much you have in common with somebody that you find them attractive as simply just a platonic friend, or more so. And there doesn't seem to be a clear distinction between when something is really like that person as a friend versus when it becomes romance. And in American culture, it seems like we like to, I'm going to say, for lack of a better word, pretend that there is a divide. But I've not been able to see where that actually is, and it's all super subjective. Where that line happens. One's appropriate, one's not, especially when it comes to working with other people. I find it fascinating. Um, so, anyways, because I very much am in the headspace of like when I'm in a monogamous relationship, almost all of my time is taken up by that other person. Sarah and I video chat and are talking all the time. And we know that it's not healthy for us to meet our only friend. Um, so like there is a push for like both of us to like meet other people, have other friends, and continue relationships like that. Um, and it, fundamentally, if I like someone to the point of hey, I could potentially uh, date this person if I wasn't in a relationship. Um, I think it's also part of just a conscious choice of uh, just not doing anything romantic. Like I don't necessarily see the problem of um, I can have feelings for somebody else and it can be uh, reciprocated. Um, and the agreement that we have with our partners is that uh, no romance with anybody else. I think that there is a line between that as like what you define as romance. Is there hugging? Is there kissing? Is there cuddling? Like what isn't allowed versus what is allowed? What touching is okay? Is a handshake okay? Is a hug too far? Maybe. So I think that conversation is important in monogamous relationships to like really draw the line. What is okay? What is not? Because then there is a line. Um, and I don't know, because what's the difference between dating and hanging out fundamentally? Because
Yeah.
I think the
I think
distinction
I
between
think that
dating,
rule is definable by the couple, by each couple. They define
yeah,
what that is.
yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So,
The issue in my case is that we didn't make any definitions,
right,
and the behavior was even though the definitions weren't set, the behavior was bypassing boundaries in her definitions, which ultimately were bypassing boundaries in mine, but we had never had the conversation of what that was. So I was bypassing boundaries without knowing I was because we never said it consciously. So it was
yeah,
like but yeah, because at first when you were like, I don't believe in monogamous relationships, I was like, I very much disagree. But then when you like went on and you like described more about like the preferences and the romance and defining what that is and what it's not, and like I'm like, yeah, I agree that it's I agree
yeah. If
about
I could give the alternative, like there are monogamous creatures in the world, and when they pair, I think like seahorse is like one of the best examples. When they pair, they are paired for life, no exceptions at all. They don't talk to anybody else. Like that is
is your
truly
yeah
monogamous.
is your definition of monogamy, does it include the only person you talk to on planet Earth is the other person that you're with? Is that your definition of monogamy?
Not not necessarily. That was just like my extreme example. Like I'm just saying for sure, seahorses are definitely monogamous.
Okay.
So I don't know. Even then, because I think that's a little bit subjective. Because it's like what amount of talking to another seahorse would be considered non-monogamous behavior. I don't know. So I think when again, it really would have to come to a setting of even observing other animals, figuring out, okay, this is considered something akin to romance.
Yeah.
Um, when it comes to the great apes, especially the pandas, no, yes, no, not quite. Because we're adjacent. The hominoids, the hominids, one of those where like our closest cousin is chimpanzees and bonobos. Like all of them are polyamorous. They all fuck each other all the time. Gay sex all the time. Especially bonobos, super gay. So and they're our closest relatives. And yeah, we definitely do that, and the fact that so many people have, again, not celebrated in America as much, but the desire to still seek out other people, even while in a agreed upon monogamous relationship, is part of the. We're not naturally monogamous. Before we like set up rules in society that we should be with one person, again in America mostly, um, people just go fucking all around. Um, and 'cause back when you couldn't test whose kid was whose. Oh, so it doesn't like back then it didn't really matter because the fuck
Interesting.
knew where that kid came from.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So
I fundamentally like. It's not that I'll say it's not that I don't disagree with your logic as much as I disagree with there's like implications to what you're saying that those implications I strongly disagree with. And so it's like,
let's dive into it.
yeah. So like example of like we're not inherently monogamous. And
Not
that
inherently, we yeah, again, we try to we agree for like consent purposes and reducing the feeling of jealousy to make our partner more comfortable. And we also, a lot of us like to reciprocate that. Again, a lot of us, because there are
the
people that
issue
are not monogamous.
the
But
issue with everything the issue that I'm having with everything you're saying is it omits the existence of growth. It omits the existence of expanding beyond what is currently available. And so it's like we can look at it and say, so as an example, like if the only way to solve jealousy is to create rules that prevent jealousy from happening, what we're completely omitting in that statement is the possibility that jealousy is a symptom of emotional immaturity, and that by yes creating boundaries, but also by growing one's emotional maturity, they can also remove jealousy. And so to me, it's like I hear what you're saying, but I'm also like there's an element in here that's not being considered, which is a growth and expansion and transcendence over time.
yeah,
And
I'm gonna challenge that one
yeah, go
because
for it. Let's get into it.
let's do it. So not again, not in a like a attacking way. It's
Yep.
for me, no ideas are sacred. May the best ideas win. Um,
Let's go. This man's like let's get into the ring. I love the way that you're putting it right now.
yeah. Well, again, the Alan and I would never attack each other.
No, it's the idea.
We want to be congruent on whatever we think is correct. So we want to be
Yeah.
as correct as possible.
Yeah.
Um, so especially coming from a emotionally intelligent standpoint, as Alan is, I'm actually kind of surprised what was implied by you said an immature emotion or no, that is what you said, right? That jealousy was an immature emotion.
No, not that it's an immature emotion, but that it's that jealousy can be a product of emotional immaturity. So in essentially, and if we want to use a more precise term that I use to try to make this easier to understand, a lack of emotional fitness. So jealousy as an example, it's just like any other emotion we have. Our emotions inform us about the world around us and what to do and how to respond. Now, jealousy as an example is an emotion that elicits an uncomfortable response in the body that usually is quickly followed by things like anger and rage. And if someone is not emotionally fit, meaning they are not accustomed or conditioned to be able to handle that emotion can overwhelm them and cause them to drop into a purely fight or flight and reactive state to then do and say things that later on, when they go back into rest and digest and they're back into their higher faculties, they go, oh wait, I wish I hadn't said that, or that was silly because X, Y, Z. And so the presence of emotional fitness is the ability to experience jealousy and then not allow it to overwhelm the system, but instead be able to ask the question, whoa, this is a big emotion. What is this informing me about the situation? And how can I remain calm and regulated through the response to this emotion hitting me? So that's what I mean by when I say emotional maturity. I think what I can use with more specificity is one's emotional fitness, or one's emotional fitness capacity might be even more precise.
Okay. I was trying to look up. I googled jealousy and apes just to see if there's any connection. Oh my gosh, stop!
Yeah, studies suggest
Big phone. Listen to that. So and uh, I'm now thinking like, oh, okay, so because my first response was, well, the emotions that we're having should be I, no, I'm really against the idea of like shame and whatever emotions um have. Uh, but I don't think that's what you're describing
No, no, no. I'm
necessarily.
not. There's no me saying you should or should not feel jealousy. What we're just talking about two outcomes. One outcome is being overwhelmed and dropped into a fight or flight state as a result of an emotion hitting the body, and then the other one remaining in rest and digest while the emotion is heightened. There's
Yeah.
just two opposite, not opposite, but two different experiences that happen as a result of an emotion.
Another example of that I would agree with would be something that Alan and I have worked very hard to uh, have between us, and that is um, not only being okay with, but embracing when another person has ideas or opinions that are different than ours.
Yep.
That most people feel like they are being attacked when that is the case. Where we have now trained ourselves and are still trying to get better at is wanting to be proven wrong, and that is the scientific way to go about it. So I don't know exactly what feeling that is, if it's not just cognitive dissonance, but it's a feeling, or it's an uncomfortable feeling coming out of that situation. So yes,
Yeah.
Anyways, I Google jealousy in apes and stop listening phone. Um, and yeah, evidence suggests that apes, particularly chimpanzees, experience jealousy. And so I think it's interesting that wow, it's not just I thought it was more broad, but no, it's specifically our closest cousins um, that also experience extreme jealousy. So that must be a leftover feeling that we had from our most recent common ancestor. They got jealous. Maybe there was some advantage to having jealousy within.
I think absolutely. If you think about from especially the feminine, from the female perspective, the female, they they cannot pass on their genes without being impregnated by a man, and then on or by a male. A female cannot be. I'm not gonna say man because there's all those things. So a female cannot pass on their genes unless they are impregnated by a male, and they can at one time only have one pregnancy at a time. Which of course there's the variance of twins and triplets and quadruplets, but traditionally one doesn't have babies and expect twins or expect triplets. They usually expect a single one. So a female can only have one baby at a time. And then in hunter gatherer dynamics, when the female has a child, that whole process renders them less physically capable while they're pregnant, especially in later stages. And they're also the way they are organized socially is to then raise the child, because they have the ability to feed the child in the earliest stages. So they themselves are more vulnerable in the beginning of that child's life. They're more vulnerable right before they give birth. So there's a level of vulnerability to threat that females have in the process of having kids. While as the male, there is a need, especially in the late stages of pregnancy and the early stages of child rearing, there's a need for that female to be protected by a male, because the female is less capable during those times in particular to be physically capable of protecting. And so if they have a single male that is in protection of them or is devoted to protecting them, it increases their likelihood of passing on their genes. Or if they have a tribe to do so, that's fine as well. But to me, I think that makes a lot of sense as to the utility of jealousy, because essentially, if one of the two beings is jealous, it creates an uncomfortable experience for the other one to have to deal with that jealousy. And so obviously the other one is going to want to avoid jealousy happening. And how jealousy is handled in most situations is that the one who is receiving the impact of the jealousy devotes themselves more, therefore they're more likely to be protecting of the one exhibiting the jealousy. I think it makes a lot of sense.
Fill some dead air.
You what?
I'm researching what you're talking about really quick. Just give me a second if you could fill some dead air with some extra thoughts.
Yeah. Happy to do it. I think I'm trying to think of other things here around jealousy. If there's anything more for me to say on it, of like its existence. I can't speak so much on jealousy, so I'll say this one additional point, and this is a personal anecdote, so this isn't necessarily going to be super scientific, other than I'm reporting in my own experience and my own drives and things. One of my key questions I've asked in life for myself is, how do I create compulsion? And the reason being is because I saw that there were certain people in the world that seem to be able to get so much done and accomplish so many things while also it be seemingly effortless to them. And I was like, man, if I could have a thing in life, I'd want to be able to get done a million things effortlessly. That'd be fantastic. I would love that. So what is that cocktail? And so I began to experiment with my own body, my own self, of not doing anything unless I was compelled to do so, and then beginning to then reverse engineer myself. What do I need in order to be compelled to take action beyond my mental faculties, but emotionally be driven from the inside out to get things done? Because I figured if I could figure that out, then I could literally wire myself to have the most relaxing life I could, because I could use the least amount of mental energy to acquire certain behavior. And so over time, what I began to find with my own self is that I was most likely to take massive action if I was deeply emotionally connected to someone or something that I loved more than I loved my own bullshit, my own limiting stories, my own limiting beliefs. Because I noticed that if I didn't actually love someone or something other than myself more than my own shit, I'd always choose my shit. And so when I met Amanda, and that connection was so potent and so powerful, she became someone that I was absolutely unwilling to lose, because of how much I loved that woman and love that woman to this day. And the amount of times where my limiting beliefs or my old patterns were in the balance. It was either choose my bullshit and lose Amanda, or choose Amanda and rewrite my bullshit. Over and over, the compulsion, not the mental, the logical sense of it, but the compulsion emotionally for me was choose Amanda, lose the bullshit, find a way through this situation because I authentically desired it in my body. My emotions were saying, do this. So for myself, on the monogamy argument, what I've also noticed is that the more I've cultivated, taking the time, the energy, applied consistency with nurturing the relationship specifically between Amanda and I, and finding the recipe for how do we make this as high quality as we possibly can without getting things met outside. Not because we're trying to follow some fucking norm, but because we want to see how good can this relationship get? How good can partnership get if we keep trying? The more I've done that, the more I've noticed things randomly come up, like me motivated to do things for my kids who don't even exist yet. I've noticed my sex drive completely skyrocket through the roof because for some reason out of nowhere I started finding it incredibly sexy, and we would use in our terms incredibly hot to, but like I would feel very heavily aroused by the idea of making children with this other woman. The more and more we built up this stuff, and I noticed that these emotional experiences, the deeper hers and my connection went, and the more we quote unquote paid for that depth of emotional connection, the more intense the forces were on my body to compel me to do more things. So to me, when it's like, perhaps not everybody's wired that way, like perhaps people's recipes for compulsion is different across the board, but I can definitely report from my own experience of myself is the deeper I've made the relationship with Amanda, the more compelled I have been to do things across the board, no question, which leads me to at least know with certainty about myself that monogamy is the way that I want to go, because the more I dive into monogamy, the more effective, passionate, powerful that I am in every area in life. Again, that might not be everyone, but I've noticed for myself that has definitely been the case over now 3 years of consistently testing and doing everything I can to make my life work at the highest level. So that's the only other thing that I'll share. You have something you pulled up and we can talk about it.
Yeah. No, I agree with a lot of that. I would also choose to be monogamous. Um, yeah, I think that there's a lot of safety in being monogamous, so that's just why I choose it. And we know that there are other people that are non monogamous. So, anyways, yeah. While you were talking about females specifically, I assume that you were referring to just like the great apes, specifically us and chimpanzees. I don't know if you were saying us and them, or
No, in
just
that
them.
in when I was specifically saying males and females, I was referring specifically to monkeys because I was like, our the complexity of our society is different. There's so much more to it. But I was thinking in terms of just simple, basic, like if you are an animal and you are limited
We
to.
are animals and we are monkeys.
Right, but I'm saying like an animal without complex society, like grocery stores and delivery systems and all this stuff. I'm like, if I'm an ape in the wild, and I am a female who is capable of birthing one child at a time, then in that scenario, all I was doing was using common sense, if you will. Like, well, let me think about how that would work, and then I was like, I think that would be a good argument for it. That was where that was coming from.
Gotcha. So yeah, I didn't know if you were specifically saying that like females may be more jealous than males.
No, I
Uh,
was simply making an argument for the utility of jealousy
oh, okay.
in
Well,
that
I
particular
totally
example.
researched something that was pointless, but just because I got it, I was looking through a bunch of stuff, and there's no direct evidence that there's sexual dimorphism between males and females for jealousy specifically.
Sure,
It seems
sure.
that, I mean, we don't know for sure if they are equally jealous, but like there's not enough evidence to point that one is for sure more than the other, so you could just
Yeah,
call it a draw.
yeah.
But holy shit, how aggressive jealousy is within chimpanzees that females are aggressive to migrant females and will even kill their newborn infants in community members.
Yeah,
Um,
makes sense.
and that is
Think about it.
uh,
Just think about it from the reference of birthing children. Like there's probably the potential that the experience might be of the belief of scarcity. Like if there's more females, then I'm less likely to birth children. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
well, it seems that it's correlated to population density. So if there's a restriction of food, they would be like, okay, no more kids for the migrants.
Yeah, there's only so much food to go around. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I find that fascinating, and there's a lot to learn from chimpanzees and bonobos because they are our closest cousins.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of hesitance to immigrants uh, relating a lot to that abstract
Yeah.
in this article, female competition chimpanzees. So, anyways, back to the fallacy. We're on self deception. Did I think? I don't know what conclusion we got to with the monogamy thing. I think we just agreed that you and I prefer it, monogamy.
Yeah, well, because the statement that you had said in the beginning was that you were like the statement you said was that human beings are definitely not monogamous, and I was like, I don't agree with that statement.
All right, well, let me Google that one.
Yeah, yeah. Because I agree that people have different preferences. I'm open to that, but to say human beings are not monogamous to me that was like I was like I don't agree with that at all. Because for me, as I've cultivated and nurtured the monogamy that I have, more and more I desire it more. I don't desire it less, and I certainly don't desire to um, yeah, yeah, if that makes sense. So like, I was like, I'm a living, breathing example. I don't accept that definition or that declaration.
Okay. Let me. I guess I'll just share this AI um, screen. Oh, okay. That work. Okay. Humans are generally considered to be socially monogamous species, meaning they tend to form pair bonds and engage in long-term relationships with one partner. But this doesn't negate the fact that humans also exhibit tendencies of polygamy. While social monogamy is common, biological monogamy, exclusive sexual relationships, is less so, as humans also exhibit a natural inclination towards infidelity and other forms of relationships, according to some research. This complexity is suggesting human relationships are influenced by a combination of biological predispositions and cultural norms. Yeah, so it's definitely again, this is just the AI overview, but from my understanding from science communicators that I've heard is that humans are like we choose to be monogamous, but like as our desires, and especially like sexual, are non-monogamous. Because even think about like um, before you get into a monogamous relationship, how much dating and like sexual discourse happens between different people. Maybe not for anyone in particular, but at least for me,
To
all over the
be,
place.
to be clear, like for me, like here, how this might help because I think there's also there's an ability here to create definitions that are concrete.
Yeah.
For me, the way me personally I differentiate monogamy and polygamy is the number of romantic partnerships that are being cultivated. So monogamy to me is one cultivated romantic partnership. I do not believe that in monogamy that means you cannot include other sexual partners within the monogamous relationship. I just believe that it means there's one that is that a romantic relationship is being strictly cultivated with, whereas polygamy is there are multiple romantic relationships all being cultivated. So, but I don't. Again, with monogamy, I don't see it as like example. If you have a monogamous partnership of which they desire to have within that monogamous partnership the occasional third party, fourth party, fifth party, whatever involved in their sexual play, I don't consider that non-monogamous. I consider it non-monogamous when there are multiple in-depth romantic relationships being cultivated at the same time. That to me is the differentiator between the two. I don't consider sexuality to be a disqualifier in either.
All right, because if oh god, I gotta Google that too.
Yeah. But we're talking, to
Is
be clear, we're also, I want to be fair, and this is important. I do have to go here in 1 minute, but I want to say this before I do, is we're talking about a topic, you and I right now are talking about a topic that is hot in popular culture right now. It is being discussed all over the place. Just a couple months ago, someone very famous in the cultural, I guess, pop culture world, his name is Aubrey Marcus, came out and said, God wants me to be polygamous. And it started this whole massive debate on all socials, all places, monogamy or polygamy. So we're talking about something that the world right now is in really powerful debate around. So, like, you and I could have this debate, and it actually honestly would probably be super beneficial for us to have it because the whole world is really in discussion on this in this current moment in time.
okay. Yeah, I just wanted to avoid equivocation as much as possible, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, because that it's like what was happening in my mind is like, well, anything that's not just a romantic and sexual relationship just between two people, if there's a third party or anybody else, if I were to see that in any other animal species, I would be like, okay, well, that's non-monogamous.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to like special plead to just humans. Well, that's just an exception. Well, then are we equivocating? So, but I just Googled, is a threesome considered non-monogamous? And it's like not necessarily it can be, but also like it depends. So, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just gonna say it's not well defined in humans. And I think we can just leave it at that because I don't care that much. We are in the part of self deception, and we just wanted to like talk about that. Um,
No.
so okay, let's wrap this up.
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta go.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyways, that's arguing in bad faith. I think that's what we got. So, thank you, Alan. That was a good one. That was a good long one, and I'll see you next week.
Next week, brother.
All right, see you. Bye bye. All right, it is now 1 week later, and Alan and we had to cut off number 72 because we were totally rambling about something else. I forgot what it was, but for you guys, it was 60 seconds ago. So uh, let's wrap up our thoughts on this because I know I did have more to say. So let's see. Are you on number 72 still, Alan?
I am.
Okay, great. Um, so if you want to read it again, you can if you want. Yeah, was there anything else that you wanted to say? Because there were three different fallacies in this one.
Yeah, there are a lot of them. No, I feel like in the last one I said basically everything that I wanted to say. Um, there's just so well. There's so many. There's one, two, three, four, five. There's six fallacies in here. Um,
No, there's three. It's the first one is mala fides. Motivational truth is the second one, and then the two other alsos are just different
oh,
ways of saying that one.
got
And then
it.
self deception is the same thing as whistling by the graveyard.
Yeah. No, I feel complete on this one. If you have closing thoughts, go for it.
Okay, yeah. So because we were, I would say, kind of stumped on like how exactly the first one was a fallacy because it was arguing the example that they use, which I think needs more context. But for lack of a better phrase, I think it was a bad example. But the example was an unbeliever attacking believers by throwing verses from their own holy scriptures at them. So I think uh, the context of where this makes sense to be a fallacy is if I was saying, um, if we use the Bible for example, uh, I'm looking for a part of the Bible where I don't believe it's true, but a Christian may think it's true, or a believer of the Bible might think it's true, and uh, I'm trying to reason with them using the Bible, even though it's saying something against of what I believe. So, um, okay. The first commandment is that there's no other gods before me, right? Um, and if I were to say yes, but Jesus defies the first commandment because he says the only way to get through um, the only way to get to Yahweh is through me, and so that's literally in conflict with the first commandment. And I think it's a fallacy if I said um, that therefore Jesus is a fraud or something like that. Like if I said that, then I think it would be arguing in bad faith because I don't believe that. I believe the whole thing is basically fiction for like 99% of it. Um, so if I were to give that example and then say therefore the story contradicts logic, some part of that is impossible, then I think that is in good faith. Um, that is my only that is an example of how I think the example used in this fallacy is fallacious. Um, because otherwise, I'm like, how is holding doctrine accountable fallacious? I It doesn't make sense to me. That sounds valid, and that's what we were hung up on last week, trying to figure out. Wait, I thought this was valid, but I think that's what it's trying to say.
Yeah, I think this one because it talks about later. It talks about later self deception. I think there's an element of like the element that's confusing about this one that makes it difficult to understand is that there's an element of what an individual there's conflict between what an individual believes and what they're advocating, um, because to they're motivated by some like ulterior motive to contradict their actual beliefs. The thing I find hard about this one is like it's very difficult to know what someone's actual beliefs are, and I don't even know if you could like I don't know if there's a way you could measure like if someone says this is my belief. I don't think there's a way you can measure other than a polygraph like how you know someone's actually in belief of what they're
Yeah,
saying or not. You know what I
I mean,
mean?
even then, that's been found to be not consistent.
Right. So yeah, to me, it's like I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of over this one. It's like because it's like I see it, I understand it, but I'm like it's not landing for me. How I couldn't even tell you how I could apply this one really like practically.
Okay, so the first one, yeah, that's my understanding of why it's fallacious because the following example is a lawyer arguing for the innocence of somebody who they know is full well to be guilty. So if these two examples have something in common, it's that the person who is arguing does not believe what they are arguing for.
Yeah, but again, like personal belief. That's such a. I get that it's a fallacy, I guess, but we're talking. What we're basically saying here is lying. That's essentially what's being talked
It
about.
is. Well, yeah. It yes, but yeah, it's a very specific type of line.
Got it.
It's not. So, with motivational truth, was it deliberately lying to the people to gain their support? Oh yeah, we covered
Yeah.
that one. I feel good about that one. The example for self deception that I was going to talk about, um, in which one deliberately knowing deludes oneself in order to achieve a goal, or perhaps simply to suppress anxiety or maintain one's energy level, enthusiasm, morale, peace of mind, all of that. That one I definitely used in Vector. Um, 'Cause there were parts of it that I didn't feel good about, and also things that were said that I wasn't sure to be true. One of them was that Kako was the sharpest knives in the world, and just like just that claim, and it's like they they would show um, a couple other competitors, and then they're like, and therefore, since we're better than them, we're the best. However, I wasn't fully convinced how exactly we were better than Shun, because it seemed like they were actually sharper, but we dismissed it because they didn't have a forever guarantee or something like that. And um, anyways, so instead of talking about those exceptions and saying, I'm not really sure, maybe I should test myself, because a key thing to know, or not know, but have an indication that something seems off here is if the information that you're being told about something comes from one source, especially if that source has a motive to not be truthful. Uh, Not necessarily that they are, but just have a motive to not be truthful. Um, there, that might not be true, because I never heard anywhere else from anything else saying that Kako was the sharpest knives in the world. They may very well be, but the fact that I only heard it from Vector was a little puzzling. And so I literally told myself I'm going to turn my brain off on this one, and I'm not even going to question it, because if I go down this hole and figure out, okay, which are the sharpest knives in the world,
Yeah.
and I found out that someone else was better, then I couldn't say that we were the best, because I would
Yep.
know that would be false. And
Yep.
so it wouldn't serve me to do that.
Yep.
Therefore, I'm not even going to look into it.
Yep.
That is gross for me. That makes me want to throw up thinking that I did that. And oh my gosh. And if I could do that with that particular thing, think about what else I could have done, or maybe am still doing in my life where I'm using that reasonability. And I'm really trying not to. And I'm trying to look out for things that make me think that way.
Yeah. It's like
Um,
willful ignorance.
yeah,
Yeah, I get that.
yeah.
I've done that many times myself as well.
Do you want to share?
I mean, there's more. I mean, like I don't even beyond what we've already shared here. There have been, I think there were plenty of times in Vector where I did that, because it was like to go down the rabbit hole of finding conflicting information would impact how much money I made. And so for me, it was like I had one goal at that time, and that was graduate from college without any debt, at whatever it would take. Thankfully, I there were some lines I was unwilling to cross morally, but then there were other lines that it was like I'm willing to suspend my research on this because I just believe the people who've told me, and I know that if I found contrary information, that I'd be out of integrity. So let's not even look. So I mean, that's
But that is, but and then it's now realizing that that itself that practice in itself is not an integrity.
Yeah. To me, it's definitely an integrity thing, and I not integrity for me is something I never really understood. The like aside from it from like the strict just moral shaming practice of you got to have integrity, otherwise that person's out of integrity. Like I never understood why that mattered, and then now as like I've gotten older and I've understood the value of certain things, I'm like, oh, now I understand why integrity matters. It's like I see this more as of an integrity thing that before I don't even know if I would have cared, but now that I understand the cost of not having integrity, I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that anymore. I would rather be 100% integrity all the time.
Yeah, because it could harm other people and you
Yeah, 100%.
not have it. Yeah. All right.